The study was commissioned last year by UNICEF and the Ministry of Education with funding from the MasterCard Foundation to assess the ICT infrastructure needs in secondary schools to find out information related to access, use and the capacities of schools for ICT integration. The study findings are meant to guide and inform the strategies of implementing the Leaders in Teaching Uganda program, a 5-year 2025-2030 initiative that seeks to transform secondary school education in Uganda by improving the quality of teaching and learning in 2,091 schools across the country. According to Janet Akao, the education officer at UNICEF, the study revealed that while only 20% of schools in the country are connected to both electricity devices and internet, up to 41% of the schools were found to be semi-plugged.
Meaning the schools have access to electricity, they have access to internet, and also have access to devices, which are the foundational infrastructure for digital learning. Then we found that 41% of these schools are semi-plugged. They may have electricity, but it's unstable. They may have devices, but are significantly below the number compared to the number of students in the schools. They may have internet, but it's very unreliable. And that's a big number. And then we found that 39% of the schools are completely unplugged, completely unconnected. They don't have internet, they are not connected on the internet, they don't have devices, they don't even have the teachers to support ICT teaching.
Of the 3,225 schools in which the assessment was conducted, 1,527 were government-aided secondary schools, representing 40%. 1,440 were private community schools, representing a percentage of 32%. 521 were private faith-based schools, while 17 were universities and 1 Uganda National Institute for Teachers Education campus. Giving the example of her own school, Sister Helen Lamunu, the headmistress of Sacred Heart Girls' School in Gulu City, explained that unless the government invests in deploying more professional ICT teachers, fixing the gaps in ICT learning in secondary schools will remain a challenge.
And what are we going to do if in many of our secondary schools the teachers are not yet trained and we are planning for this bigger project? Are they going to pass the right information to the learners, or they are going to mislead the learners?
Proscovia Aber, the Gulu City Inspector of Schools, says that many schools operate without electricity connection and that an absence of qualified teachers and necessary equipment compounds the problem.
Northern region is failing in all the indicators that this study was on. When it comes to internet connectivity, we are at the lowest. When it comes to use of ICT in schools, we are at the lowest. When it comes to connection to power, we are still at the lowest. And equally, when you look at the capacity of our teachers, majority of our teachers, I would say, do not they themselves have the access, or they lack also those gadgets.
Meanwhile, Abubakar Buye, the Principal Education Officer at the Ministry of Education, while reacting to concerns raised by stakeholders regarding the lack of professional ICT teachers, admitted that the country lacks professional and that a few who the government trained left for greener pastures. According to him, the ministry will only have a full picture of the human resource capacity once a recently concluded World Bank study on the same is disseminated.
The problem with ICT, once these people are skilled and they get better skilled, they move to places where they need challenges. A school setting may not be a kind of a challenge for some of these so-called good boys and girls in terms of ICT. I know now when we open up for that, those jobs, we shall have a number coming in. But remember, once they get a better space, they go out.
Uganda has placed digital transformation at the center of its national education agenda, committing through the National Digital Agenda Strategy and the Education Sector Strategic Plan 2026-2030 to leverage technology to improve education quality and prepare learners for an increasingly digital labor market. In line with this commitment, the Leaders in Teaching Uganda program is supporting system-wide education reform through practical, equity-focused interventions and strengthened teaching, leadership and digital digital learning across secondary schools.